The twin sons of cast a molten glare over the training fields of the Dominion Forge, their heat glinting off 1,000 cages that lined the ground like iron tombs. Inside each something west-breed, scaled, fanged, feathered, clawed creatures taken from across the spiral arm, bred for obedience but yearning for blood. The air trembled with their roars and the scent of raw ozone and fear was everywhere. Cadet Marcus Hale stood at the end of the line, sweat tracing the side of his jaw beneath the rigid black collar of his cadet uniform. Around him towered beings of every imaginable shape, reptilian warriors with scales of obsidian, cadets with glistening wings and giants whose eyes glowed like burning cores. He was the only human. The smallest. The quietest. And today the most doubted. Instructor prowled before them, his movement slow and deliberate. A reptilian Elden of the lineage, his voice carried the weight of battlefields long gone and wars still being waged. You stand before the heart of the Dominion, he said, his scaled snout curling with disdain. Every soldier of worth commands a creature of the wild. Every species here has proven mastery over fear. Today you will bond, or you will die. The word bond did not sound like a promise. It sounded like a threat. The first cadet stepped forward, a arachnid named. He released a chemical mist from the glands along his back, the air shimmering with violet haze. The creature before him, a runner from the deserts, hesitated and then bowed its head. The cadet hissed triumphantly and the rest of the class tapped their armored limbs in applause. Others followed. Each alien used their species technique, pheromones, electrical pulses, frequencies. Each method was a declaration of dominance, a demonstration of control. Some cadets succeeded. Others failed. Those failures ended in shrieks that died quickly beneath the growls of their enraged beasts. Then came Marcus's turn. The creature before him was not caged. It was chained. 4 meters tall at the shoulder, its fur as black as cooled metal, eyes burning like coals in the dark. The placard read, Hound, unbounded. Lethal, no cadet had dared choose it. Marcus stepped forward anyway. Laughter rippled through the ranks. The whose mandibles clicked in amusement leaned toward his peers. The soft van will be eaten before the sun set. Marcus ignored them. He could feel the animals breathing, slow, heavy, rhythmic. It wasn't just a predator, it was an intelligence wrapped in muscle and instinct. He met its gaze and, without knowing why, felt something ancient stir inside him. Instructor was caught through the silence. Begin. Marcus took a single step closer. The hound snarled a sound that vibrated in his bones. The other cadets watched, waiting for the inevitable scream. Instead, Marcus knelt. The sand beneath his boots whispered. His heartbeat slowed. He drew in a breath and let out a low or rising whistle, a sound soft enough to be lost in the wind, yet it seemed to reach every ear in the courtyard. The hound froze. The chain links trembled as the massive creature tilted its head. Its ears flicked once, twice. The snarl faded into a rumble that was not anger but something else, curiosity or perhaps recognition. Marcus didn't move. He only kept whistling, the melody steady, simple and strangely human. The cadets murmured. The instructors exchanged glances. They took a step forward. Then another. The ground shuddered beneath its paws. When it reached him, the beast lowered its head until its muzzle hovered inches from Marcus's face. Marcus raised his hand and touched its fur. It was hot and alive and trembling. The hound let out a deep, resonant breath, a sound like surrender. A silence spread through the yard. Claws tightened behind his back. His throat plates rippled with disbelief. Explain this, he demanded, his voice tight. What command did you use? What device? What chemical? Marcus looked up slowly, his hand still resting against the creature's massive neck. Man, he said simply. I just listen. Listen? The instructor's tone was sharp. What? To him? Laughter broke the tension, harsh and nervous. Sneed, you claim to speak to beasts, a human. You mock the Dominian's training. Marcus didn't answer. He rose, meeting the multifaceted stare with a calm that seemed to unsettle even the boldest cadets. The hound stayed beside him, its movements mirroring his own, as though leashed by nothing but trust. Instructor pieced closer, studying the pair. He circled Marcus as if he were an artifact newly ended. It does not submit, he muttered. It devours. Your methods, whatever they are unnatural. Maybe, Marcus replied. Or maybe you've been doing it wrong. The words struck like plasma fire. A gasp swept through the cadets. Insulting an instructor was unthinkable, yet Marcus's tone wasn't rebellious. It was quiet, thoughtful, almost innocent. Stared into the human's eyes and found no arrogance there, only the unnerving stillness of someone who saw the world differently. The instructor's frills stiffened, signaling unease. The hound let out a low sound, not a growl but something between a sigh and a purr. The silence that followed felt heavier than any roar. Finally, turned away. Take your creature and report to the observation sector. We will, yes. The jungle dome of the Dominion Forge was a world unto itself, humid, dense, and filled with the low pulse of alien life. Twin moons shimmered through its glass canopy, turning the mist into silver fog. Somewhere deep within that expanse, a chorus of roars and screeches rose like an unholy hymn. Every cadet who entered this place would be tested for the same purpose, to prove their mastery of their creature, to survive hours in the wild, and to emerge bonded or dead. Marcus held tightened the straps of his harness, his hand brushing the warm flank of the hound beside him. He had named it Echo. The creature tilted its head slightly, sensing his intent before he even spoke. Its amber eyes gleamed with intelligence, wild but loyal. Around them, the other cadets prepared for entry. Hissed under his breath as he passed Marcus. When the beasts grow hungry, let's see if your songs save you then, human. Marcus didn't answer. He had learned that words were wasted on those who needed to win by nose. The gates opened with a hiss of pressure and the cadets moved into the jungle. The air was thick with humidity and the scent of alien flora, metallic and sharp. Echo padded ahead, its steps silent despite its size. Marcus followed, trusting the hound's instincts more than his own eyes. In the distance, blue lightning flashed between the canopy leaves where some predators hunted. The cries of cadets echoed faintly, some victorious, others abruptly cut short. Hours passed in measured silence. Marcus marked his surroundings carefully, building a map in his mind. Echo's ears flicked at every sound, its nose tracing invisible trails through the undergrowth. It wasn't obedience, it was partnership. When Marcus stumbled, the hound slowed. When the hound bristled, Marcus readied his pulse knife. They moved as one. Night fell fast under the artificial moons. The jungle came alive in new colors, plants, water streams glowing with microbial light. Marcus crouched near a clearing, whispering, "Rest here." Echo sat beside him, lowering its massive head. From the shadows came a whisper, "Too smooth to be the wind." Marcus's hand tightened around his knife, his body still. Echo's hackles rose. "Human," the voice hissed. stepped from the darkness, his four upper limbs folded across his armored chest. His compound eyes reflected the glow like shards of glass. Still alive? I underestimated your luck. I'd call it cooperation, Marcus said quietly. The cadet clicked his mandibles in disdain. Beasts obey only strength. You have none. Marcus didn't reply. Echo growled low, a vibration that rolled through the ground. Smirked. Let's test your theory. He snapped his claws, and behind him 3 other cadets appeared, each accompanied by their bonded creatures, fangs glistening, claws twitching, eyes hungry. Echo stepped forward, shoulders broad, body tense. Marcus's heart thudded in his chest, but he didn't draw his weapon. Instead, he raised 2 fingers to his lips and gave a sharp, rising whistle. The sound sliced through the humid air. The approaching beasts froze. Their heads tilted as if listening to something beyond hearing. The alien cadets shouted commands, but their creatures hesitated, restless, confused. Marcus shifted his tone, softer now, the melody flowing like a breeze through leaves. Echo turned its head toward him, then barked once, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to ripple outward. The other creatures backed away. Command became frantic. Obey me, he hissed, his voice high with frustration. But the beasts did not. They looked at Marcus instead. The moment stretched long enough for fear to replace rage in many eyes. What are you? He spat. Something that listens, Marcus said. The other cadets broke formation, their beasts retreating into the dark. Only remained, trembling with fury. You won't survive this dome. The instructors will see your trick and tear it apart. Marcus's gaze held steady. Then they'll have to understand it first. Hissed and vanished into the trees. When silence returned, Echo sat beside Marcus again, pressing its great head against his shoulder. Marcus exhaled, his breath shaking slightly. You're doing all the hard work, he murmured. The hound gave a low, rumbling sound that might have been laughter if beasts could laugh. As dawn approached, the cadets were recalled. Many limped, some carried stretchers of those who hadn't returned. Marcus and Echo walked back through the gates together, unharmed. The other recruits parted as they entered, their eyes avoiding his. A few whispered as he passed, rumors already spreading faster than truth. Instructor waited at the platform. His scaled features were unreadable, though his yellow eyes followed every step the human took. When Marcus reached him or spoke without greeting. You entered the wild zone with an untrained. You emerged without a single wound. Explain. Marcus hesitated. There's not much to explain. I didn't control him. I understood him. The instructor's tail lashed the ground, leaving a groove in the metal. Understanding is not a military doctrine. It is weakness. Then maybe weakness is what you've been missing, Marcus said softly. The statement hung in the air like an electric charge. Frills fled with restrained anger, but beneath it something flickered, respect or perhaps curiosity. He stepped closer and the Academy's research hall was colder than any battlefield. The walls pulsed with faint light from panels casting a sterile glow over the chamber. Marcus sat within a containment circle of transparent alloy, the air around him humming faintly with restraint fields. Beyond the glass, a group of alien scientists observed in silence, their instruments tracing invisible waves of data around him. And Echo, who sat close by, calm, alert, its massive tail curled protectively near Marcus's legs. Instructor stood at the forefront of the group, his scaled face unreadable. Weeks had passed since the test in the wild zone, but the echoes of that night still reverberated through every corridor of the Dominion Forge. Beasts across the academy had grown restless, their behavior erratic, some even displaying signs of communication once thought impossible. And the cause of it all sat quietly before them, a human and his hind. Begin Phase 3. Deodorant. The High Warden, a skeleton being wrapped in silver carapace, his was thin as static. We must determine if the phenomenon is chemical, psychic, or something else. A faint hiss filled the air as the containment field brightened. Dozens of sensors activated, projecting streams of holographic data. Marcus felt the air thicken, a subtle vibration pressing against his skull. Echo growled low, its hackles rising. Easy, Marcus murmured, laying a hand on the creature's head. The hound's pulse slowed instantly, its muscles relaxing under his touch. The instruments reacted violently. The readings spiked, filling the hall with a sharp chime. One of the scientists hissed, resonance surged, and quantifiable frequency detected. Frills lifted slightly. He's synchronizing. Marcus frowned. Synchronizing? With the beast's neural rhythm, said. You're aligning your with its instinctive pulse. That shouldn't be possible. I'm not doing anything, Marcus replied. I'm just feeling what he feels. The High Warden's mandibles clicked sharply. No species can mirror the instinctive field of another. Emotion is not science. Maybe not for you, Marcus said quietly, his voice carrying more calm than defiance. But for us, it's how we survived. On Earth, we didn't conquer beasts by force. We lived beside them. Listened to them. The room fell silent. Even the hum of machinery seemed to fade. Studied the human with a gaze that was no longer contemptuous. Something had shifted in the weeks of observation, curiosity replacing disdain. He stepped closer to the glass. Tell me, Cadet Hale. When you whistle, what do you think they hear? Marcus hesitated. Not commands. Not words. Maybe something simpler. The way wind tucks to trees, or water to stone. A promise? The High Warden scoffed. Romantic nonsense. But before the words had settled, the alarms began to blur. The lights flickered red, and the scientists entered the far corridor where steel doors trembled under a colossal impact. A roar followed, deep, furious. Eyes widened. Containment breach, Sector 5. The wall burst inward as the of the lower pens forced its way through, its 6 eyes burning with primal rage. The creature was a mountain of armored flesh and sinew, its roar shattering glass and metal alike. Panic erupted as scientists scattered. The beast's massive claws tore through the observation deck, crushing consoles like paper. Evacuate, the High Warden shouted. Mode turned the emergency override, but Marcus was already on his feet. The containment field activated, and then the shockwave, an echo leapt in front of him, teeth bared. They locked onto the smaller hound and let out a thunderous snarl. Marcus stepped forward. His heart hammered, but his body was steady. He whistled once, sharp and short. Echo froze. The Titan's gaze shifted to Marcus. He whistled again, slower this time, the tone low and steady. The air seemed to still. The beast hesitated. Claws dug into the console. This is madness, he whispered. Marcus took another step closer, the melody rising and falling with a rhythm that seemed almost ancient. The Titan's breathing slowed. The fires in its eyes dimmed. Every muscle in the creature's body trembled as though fighting some invisible chain, then slowly, agonizingly, lowered itself to the ground. Silence consumed the hall. When Marcus stopped whistling, the Titan remained motionless, its head bowed. Echo padded forward, sniffing the massive creature's muzzle, then sat beside it as though greeting an old friend. Marcus turned to face the stand instructors and researchers. "You call them monsters," he said softly, "but they were only ever waiting for someone to speak their language." The High Warden stood frozen, his skeletal frame rigid with disbelief. "You've overridden instinct. That shouldn't be possible." "It wasn't override," Marcus said. "It was recognition." Approached slowly, his tail dragging across the fractured floor. "You've done what none of us could achieve in centuries of training. No dominance. No pain. Only understanding." "How?" Marcus met his gaze. "Maybe because we learned a long time ago that control isn't strength. Connection is." For the first time, the old instructor bowed his head slightly. "Perhaps the Dominion has misunderstood strength all." The academy was no longer a place of order. Smoke called from shattered towers, alarms wailed through the cordons, and the ground itself seemed to pulse with the rhythm of awakening beasts. The Dominion Forge, once a symbol of absolute control, had become a living organism, breathing, trembling, and answering to a new call that no one fully understood. Marcus Hale walked through the chaos with deliberate calm. His boots crunched over fragments of aloe and glass, Echo pacing beside him with the pause of a guardian. Around them, alien cadets cowered behind barricades while others fled through collapsing gates. The creatures that once served as instruments of domination now moved freely through the ruins, yet none attacked. They walked with intent, gathering as though following an invisible command. Instructor caught up to Marcus near the central courtyard, his armor dented and smeared with soot. The reptilian veteran's breath came in rough bursts, but his eyes were sharp, focused. "The council has ordered your execution," he said without ceremony. "They claim you incited rebellion across every training sector." Marcus stopped. The distant howl of a beast echoed through the cordons like a mournful hymn. "Rebellion wasn't my intention," he said quietly. "They were never slaves. I just reminded them." Studied the human's face, searching for arrogance or for guilt, finding neither. "You realize they'll destroy you for this. The High Warden is mobilizing defense drones. They'll burn the entire compound to contain the phenomenon." Marcus knelt beside Echo, running a hand through the hound's coarse fur. "If they think fire will silence what's been awakened, they've forgotten what life really is." The sound of approaching boots caught through the air. A squad of armed guards emerged from the smoke, weapons primed. Behind them, High Warden appeared, his silver carapace reflecting the inferno. "There will be no more of your tricks, O human," he hissed. "You will surrender. The creatures will be purged." Stepped between them instinctively. "You'll kill everything in the forge. Better that than an empire built on chaos." Snap. "Human influence ends here." Marcus rose slowly, his gaze steady. "You still don't understand," he said. "You think chaos came from me. It came from the silence you forced on them." The High Warden gestured sharply. "Fire!" The guards raised their weapons, but before they could release the shot, a deep, resonant note cut through the air. It wasn't a word. It wasn't even human. Marcus had whistled a single low tone that vibrated like a living pulse. The sound seemed to sink into the ground itself. Every creature in the compound went still. Then, from the jungle domes to the steel halls, a wave of resonances rose, roars or trills, howls and calls of every pitch. The air trembled with a harmony that transcended language. The soldiers hesitated as the beasts began to gather around Marcus, forming a vast circle that rippled with muscle and power. took a step back, softening his hardened features. "They're not attacking," he whispered. "They're protecting him." The High Warden's composure fractured. "This is blasphemy. He's enslaved them through sound." Marcus shook his head. "Not enslavement. Recognition." He looked at the hound beside him. "They know their names now. You never bothered to learn them." The beasts advanced, not in rage but in unity. The guards dropped their weapons as the creatures formed a living wall between Marcus and the council's enforcers. The High Warden stumbled back, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of it. Every roar and growl joined into something resembling a single voice. Turned to Marcus, his voice low. "They're yours now, whether you wanted them or not. What will you do?" "I won't rule them," Marcus said. "But I can show them how to be more than weapons." He looked toward the sky. "Maybe that's what we all need." The High Warden raised his weapon in trembling defiance. "You'll destroy us all with your sentiment." Marcus stepped forward, the beasts parting for him like a tide. "No," he said softly. "You destroyed yourselves the moment you stopped listening." Fired. The energy bolt struck the ground near Marcus's feet, exploding in a flash of blue light. Echo lunged instantly, knocking the weapon from the warden's hand with a snarl that rattled the walls. The hound didn't kill, it simply stood guard, its fangs bared inches from the alien's throat. Moved quickly, dragging back. "Enough," he roared. "The Dominion stands on the edge of extinction and you would still cling to arrogance." Trembled in silence. Around them, the academy groaned under the strain of so many beasts gathered in one place. Marcus turned toward the courtyard's open expanse. The creatures followed, massive forms illuminated by the glow of the burning towers. He paused, looking back at. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them it wasn't power that saved us. It was understanding." Bowed his head slightly, the gesture carrying the weight of something sacred. "Where will you go?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Wherever they go. Wherever they listen." He placed a hand on Echo's neck and whistled one final tune, a gentle, falling melody that rolled through the air like a promise. One by one, the beasts began to move, dispersing into the wilderness beyond the domes. Their silhouettes vanished into the fog and fire, but their calls lingered, fading into the horizon.